Hey everyone, welcome back. Just a quick update on my latest Make Anything machine. I just recorded this video. It was about 15 minutes long and then realized that my mic was muted. So take two, here we go. All right, so that's kind of the status at a glance right now, trying to catch up with my operator level stuff. And milestones are just chugging along pretty much unattended. The latest Make Anything machine that I've got right here, this is the quad-based one. I've also got a layer-based one. It actually takes two to keep things rolling. There are some things that a quad-based Make Anything machine struggles with, and it's more suited for a layer-based and vice versa. So I feel like having both working concurrently is a good pathway to success. Today I'm going to focus on this latest version of the quad-based Make Anything machine. If you're not familiar with a Make Anything machine, the idea is that you just set it and forget it. And these operator levels here will continuously refresh, and they'll keep giving you new ones to make over and over. And if you've got a machine that just looks at what the current shape is and attempts to make it, then I think that's the the goal of this game is to make it play itself, I guess you could say. And that's why I put so much time into it, because I really feel like it's fun. At any rate, making a Make Anything machine is a fun endeavor. It will test your logic skills and your knowledge of the game. Yeah, so at any rate, any Make Anything machine will start out with a way to get shapes into it. This is a way that I've got get shapes into it. They pile up here and then they're distributed into different buckets, and each one of these buckets holds one of the different shapes. All right, this has not been expanded to include the new shapes in release 1. That's coming later, but for right now, that's how you get shapes into it. Same thing with colors. Bring in the raw colors, red, green, and blue, put them through a mixing unit that I took a lot of time. I'm going to make a separate video on just this mixing machine, but that allows all the colors to be available, all right, for both shapes and crystals during construction. So the way this Make Anything machine is constructed is, you can see you have 4 big modules, all right, and each one of those modules represents a quadrant of the final shape that you're trying to make. This would be the northeast quadrant. This would be the northwest quadrant, southwest, and southeast. So essentially what you're trying to make is the base plus 1, base plus 2, and then the top level of each quadrant. And then at the end, you can use swappers to put them together. This is a very powerful way of putting together shapes, and sometimes sidesteps a lot of the issues that you have with layer-based construction. So the quad-based is a little bit more bulky, and it's kind of clunky a little bit in a certain sense, but it will also handle just about anything you can throw at it, with a few exceptions. I'll take you through one of the quadrants construction, and then look a little bit at the swapper at the end, and then that'll take care of what I really wanted to accomplish in this video. So previous Make Anything machines that were quad-based that I built had some pretty complicated logic, especially for pins. And what I mean by that is that it could get fairly involved, at least because I'm not the sharpest tack in the box. I had to kind of brute force my way through different combinations of dropped pins and pin combinations. Well, this new way that I'm doing it has sidestepped that issue, and the way I'm making pins now, first of all, let's just take one of the quads. So the shapes come in. There's a sorter here that it looks at what was on that particular layer. They're painted the appropriate color, and then they're passed on throughout the rest of the pipeline here. And the pipeline consists of a crystallizer, a pin pusher with some extra stuff on here that I'll explain here in a minute, and then another stacker for again, that has to do with the pin. So prior to this, one of the things that complicates Make Anything machine is pins, because it's hard to just stick a pin somewhere. They usually have to be attached to a shape that's then, well, you have to have a shape, pin push that shape or crystal, and then stack that on top of something else. Well, that causes you to have to kind of look forward and look back and see what's coming next and account for a lot of different situations or exceptions. So after playing the game for a while, I figured there's another way to make a pin that just kind of stands alone, and that's to use a broken crystal. And so that's what I'm doing now, is that if I need a pin, what I'm doing is first crystallizing a quadrant, pin pushing that whole scaffold and quadrant, and then stripping the quadrant out of it, and then plopping it down on top of that. And because when you drop a crystal, it breaks, what that does is it leaves the pin behind. That's not happening on this particular level right now, but I can show you that in action on another one, I think. So that's how I'm making pins now on a pin by pin basis. If I need a pin, I just create a crystal, pin push it, and then drop it. It breaks the crystal, leaves the pin. And so that made the logic required a lot more straightforward. So for each one of these layers, it just continues on. There's basically the same thing. I'll just let you look at some of the notes that I've written to myself, because if you don't play for a while, you come back, you're trying to remember what you did. Then that is how I wind up creating these different combinations. So that's all fine and dandy. That handles the pins very well, and it just goes from layer to layer, and I don't require any additional off-platform logic to accomplish that, which is nice. So the pins are being handled pretty well, and that handles top pins, exposed pins, all the rest. So there's no problem with pins. But pins aren't the only thing you can make in these things. You can also make crystals. And so crystals, again, by themselves, not such a big issue. A shape comes in, you crystallize it, move on. But crystals can also have voids underneath them, and that complicates matters. Crystals can also have pins underneath them, and that complicates matters. So those two issues are handled in different ways, but they are handled. So first off, if I've got a void underneath a crystal, where you have a null, then a crystal, and then something else above that, maybe a couple shapes, you have to protect the null, because once you pour a crystal, it's going to fill in any nulls that are underneath it. And so with a layer base, you can kind of get away with this by breaking crystals. And well, guess what? That's what I'm going to do here too, but I'm going to do it in a different way than the pins. So for voids underneath crystals, or null crystals, what I do as soon as it gets done saving here, is I create a scaffold. And I didn't really talk about scaffolds a lot, but a scaffold is basically just a 3-position shape with a missing quarter, and that quarter is the northeast quarter. And so when that scaffold comes in here, it's either filled in with the shape that you want, the pin that you want, or the crystal you want, and then it moves on, and therefore you just build one quadrant of the shape at a time, one layer at a time. So with a null that's underneath a crystal, we don't want it to get filled in with the crystal that we're keeping. We want it to get filled in with the crystal that's later going to be broken. And so I do that by modifying the scaffold into, and it's not happening right here, but this is the apparatus that does that. It'll just basically slice off one piece of that. So it's now going to make a crystal that's 2 wide instead of just 1/4. It will be half of a shape, and the half matters depending on which quad it is, because that shape, that half crystal, is going to be aligned perpendicular to the swappers at the end where all these quads are put together, and it will be broken, because once you pour a crystal, you can't swap it or cut it except along the lines that it was poured on. So by filling in a void early with a crystal that you know is going to be broken later, you can account for voids underneath crystals. And so that was how I accomplished that. So I make a modified scaffold, crystallize it, and then you can crystallize over the top of it, put shapes over it, whatever you want. But during the swapper operations, that crystal will be broken, leaving you with a void. All right, and so that was how I took care of voids under crystals. Now the other thing was, how about pins underneath crystals? Well, pins underneath crystals are a weird one because you can only have a pin underneath a crystal, but you can't have a pin underneath the crystal and then another pin over the crystal. All right, there's just no way for that to work out. Um, well, I say that you can, but you can't have what can't you have? Let's see. Oh, you can't have a pin underneath a crystal unless that pin is on layer 1 and 2, or layer 1 and 2 and 3. Because once you've already once you've already created a shape that's got, say, a shape on the bottom, the only way to get a pin and a crystal after that is to drop it underneath. You just can't do it. If you look at the logic, there's no way to really make where you've got a pin anyway. So that has to happen last. You can't pin push the crystal and then drop that on something, or it'll break the crystal. So I know that sounded a little bit rambly, but trust me, I've gone through the different permutations, and what it amounts to is that you have to do all your pin pushing at the end. So if there are pins in crystals, pins underneath crystals, then these are the pin pushers that make that happen, with the logic that detects those special cases here, and then it's also being detected early on, um, so that pins that are underneath crystals don't get made right now. They just get deferred till later. And so that's actually being handled too. So what are some of the different, well, before I go there, that's how one whole quadrant is made, and then that's repeated 4 times for the different quadrants. And then we wind up at the swapper. So the swapper looks like this. Well, actually the swapper looks like this. But before we get to the swapper, all 4 of the different quadrants are kind of collected here. This is the shape we're making. This happens to be just the job 1 shape, or the operator random operator 1 shape that's being made. And what you can see is that for each quadrant, I've kind of just illustrated. This is northeast, this is northwest, southwest, and southeast. And so if we just want to double check to make sure that those quadrants are being correctly manufactured, then we can just look around at them like so. Okay, and so that's kind of just a check to make sure that the individual quadrants are being made properly. And then the quadrants go into the swapper. And so I have 3 swappers. So why do I need 3 swappers? Well, I need 3 swappers because sometimes voids create situations where during a swap event the shapes will fall. And if they do that, it just ruins the shape. So what I try to do is do all combinations of swapping. So I've got this one, this particular swapping unit does the northeast and northwest first. It puts those together. Southeast, southwest, it puts together, and then it puts them both together. And that usually works as long as you don't have a problem with again voids, and this shape doesn't. But if that fails, then I've got this backup plan where I do the northeast, southeast first, and then northwest, southwest second, and then put them together. And then lastly, I've got even a diagonal here where I go northeast, southwest, northwest, southeast second. And one of those will usually work. Now, in this particular case, because there's no weird voids, all 3 of these are produced in the proper shape. But I've had situations with these random operators, especially on level 1, or random operator 0, and this is one of them that's difficult, or give me fits, where I've had situations where one of these pipelines will work and the other 2 won't. And so it was worth the time to go ahead and make those just for those oddball cases. Now, like I said before, I also have a layer-based MAM that takes care of situations like that. So this is a layer-based MAM that is doing the exact same shape, and it's cranking them out. So no issues there. Some shapes just lend themselves to layer-based construction rather than quad-based construction. Layer-based is so much smaller, but not nearly as versatile. All right, so at any rate, there's the one I was working on. This one is the most versatile that I've made yet, and it makes just about anything in hard mode, with the exception of a couple really oddball items. Some of the weirder ones don't work that great. No, this is my test platform that I use periodically just to see if everything's working. So this man will do um, top pins, single pins, double pins, drop pins, basic single pins, double pins, triple pins, even a quad pin. All of these shapes have been successfully made with this particular MAM uh, thing. And now all of these test shapes are just one quad. All right, so there's no point in trying to make an entire shape. But there are situations where the quad based will fail based on voids. So it'll also do some of the more weirder crystal stuff. So it's been tested with crystals and pins to account for um, these types of situations where you got a pin shape and a crystal, pin crystal shape, double pin with a crystal, single pin, or triple pin, double pin, single pin, and then pin crystal pin shape, pin crystal shape pin, and then these are some of the ones from the jobs that caused me fits until I got them to work. So at any rate, this is the latest and greatest. I don't know how much further I'll go with this because it's really, I think, making just about anything I needed to make on the hard mode, and this would be easier to translate to insane mode if I had the gumption to do that by adding another layer on top. The previous method would have been really tough because I'd had to itemize just about every possible drop pin case, and that gets quickly out of hand when you add another layer. So, all right, that was a lot of flapping and blabbing. I'm going to put this as a blueprint in the description. And if you want to use it, great. Just be advised that you need to deliver your shapes properly. This is how I do it. You can figure out another way if you like, but the shapes have to arrive um, the way they are right now, okay, in these particular orders. Same thing with the colors, have to be delivered that way with however way you want to do it. But if you do that, you should be able to make most of the shapes in the job list. And the MAMs that I make, and this is the most capable one, has been able to make every shape in the job list up to, well, that little bastard right there defeated the quad based one, but it actually made these ones. That one's a special case. I'm not going to go into detail as to why, but it's a pain. And then it made all these. Now the only ones that I haven't done in the jobs are the ones that require the newer shapes from the release 1, and I just haven't got around to it. I've got to recreate my shape suppliers to include the new shapes. But other than that, the MAM should make them just fine. These really don't include any other functionality that I don't already have. It's just adding new shapes to it. So that's where I'm at right now with the quad based and the jobs. If you want to work on your jobs using the Make Anything machine, I think that's one of the most fun things that this game offers, is seeing what you can not make yourself, which is just sounds weird, but almost like golf. The idea of golf is to play less golf. Well, the idea of this game is to create shapes less by yourself and create a generalized Make Anything machine that will do it. So that's this video. I think I'll make a separate video on the layer based because this one's already past most people's attention span. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up, and I'll see about posting this in the posting this blueprint for this in the description. So thanks. See y'all later.